slide for this one. But were we able to complete? I don't know if we, because I know the midwives I did not finish with them. I don't know if you were able to. So you can look at the slides and see where we got to. Think from this side.
So that's where we stopped. We stopped here.
We stopped here.
Yes, select suppliers.
Okay. So I want to find out if you have any question regarding last week's lecture. Any question? Hello.
Hello, sir.
Hello, sir. No,
Okay.
please.
Hi.
Okay, so let's continue. So I'll continue from the 12 slides so that we can build up to the next one that we stopped. So we talk about developing we were looking at the procurement process, and we got to developing bidding document and invite offers. So we talked about the 11 slides, we talked about budget funding, procurement requisition, procurement planning. We've gotten to developing bidding document and invite offers. So who developed the bidding documents? And if I may ask, what is the difference between bidding and tendering? These words are sometimes used interchangeably, but in supply chain, yeah, Kwame Tufo, your hand is up.
Sir, last week you made us understand that with the tendering document, that has to do with you, the procurement unit, who is trying to get the service or good or whatever from the suppliers. So in your tender, you let them know the kind of commodity that you want and the quantity, the specifications and everything. Then with the bidding, they will prepare their documents and also give you details of the quantities they were able to supply along with the prices and all that. So it's more like the tender is coming from the procurement unit who wants to buy from the supplier, and the bidding documents are coming from the various suppliers. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So we can talk of the tendering as an invitation, and then the bidding as a response. So when you bid, you respond to the tender by the buyer. So in developing bidding documents for effective competitive procurement, it is important for you to create detailed bidding document against which suppliers will assess their ability and interest in providing the goods. So bidding documents should explain in detail, one, the quantities, specifications, and quality assurance requirement of the desired product. So with the bidding document, as you indicated by Tufo, you, the buyer or the procurement entity, will determine the quantities. You will give them the specs. You will tell them the quantity. You will select the products you want them to supply. And then in return, they will now, give you that quality assurance requirement desired. See, you need, please, is the network bad?
No, sir, we can hear you loud and clear.
No, we can hear you.
No, sir, we can hear
Sir,
you
they are
clearly.
hearing you loud and clear.
Okay, thank you very much. So you will indicate the quantities and then the specs, the kind of, so in the case of health commodities, if we are talking about, we have a lot of drugs. For drugs, we have thousands of them. And then if you talk of, let's say, I want common drugs that are, so let's pick paracetamol, and you need to give the specs. The specs will be the dosage. Here we are talking the forms. We are talking about, these days paracetamol tablets, all of them are 500 milligram. In those, we used to have 250 milligram, but these days we no longer have them. Do we still have the 250 milligram?
No, sir.
No, sir.
Yeah.
No, sir.
They are all 500 because it used to be those days that's why those days you take 4. You want to work, they will give you 4 of them to take at a go. And that's when it was difficult to take. I mean, taking 4 at the time was if so this time you have the 500 mil. So they've what do you call it, compress it into 500, and then if we're taking 2, I think is better than taking 4 at a go. Then the quality assurance requirements of the desired products. So the specs will tell you that this is what we want. It will state the condition that the product should be in, how it should be packaged, and everything. Then on the bidding document, you have the delivery date and required destination for shipment. So we have the delivery dates and then required destination, when the item will be delivered, because this one is coming from the, what do you call it, the supplier. So the supplier must state when the date that the item will be supplied, and then based on the tendering document, and then the destination where the item should be delivered to. And then regulations, procedures, and timing for responding to bids. To be stated, when the procedure, how do we, sometimes they will tell you that all bids must be put in a sealed envelope, or because sending it electronically, if you send it, fine, you can send it electronically, but then it is easy for others to see what you have. And a lot of people, they do things when it comes to bidding. People, the procurement team, they have their own thing. That's what Manasseh did, and then implicated the former boss of Procurement Authority. Over there, things, a lot of things go, because all government contracts, major procurement, that is where they pass. And so when it comes to bidding, people, if it is a sealed envelope, sometimes people are able to open the envelopes and then they communicate your base to other people. If you get unscrupulous people. And then selection criteria that will be used to evaluate and select suppliers. Suppliers should know how they are going to be assessed, the criteria on which they are going to be evaluated. Because if you don't tell them and you will just, what do you call it, screen them, it will be unfair. Because as you sit, you know the mode of assessment as students. You know how you are being assessed. Sometimes they tell you here is 30, 70. Somewhere they do it 60-40. Even here, the diploma student, they have 60-40. Okay. So you know your pass mark. nursing practicals. If you get 49, you have failed. But if you get 49 in supply chain or other courses, you have. But then in nursing, there are other subjects that your pass mark is 50. I know for what do you call it? Nursing practicals. And so those ones, now you know how you are being assessed. And when you get your results, they will tell you that 70 and above is first class. That's good, because UCC, you need to hit 80 before you get first class. UCC 70 is 70 to 79 is a B plus. It's not A. If you want to score A UCC, you need to get 80 and above to score A. So realize that you all know your evaluation criteria, so the school cannot choose otherwise. The same thing applies to this supply chain, what this applies to the bidding. Once the selection criteria has been put out there, that is, you use that one to assess, use that one to evaluate all suppliers. You don't use for supply B, and when it gets to supply A, you use different criteria. Then let us look at the selecting suppliers. How do we select suppliers? After you have received the bids, you need to select suppliers to the right suppliers who are going to supply you the item. So a program success depends on selecting suppliers that will be able to deliver quality goods at an affordable cost within the required time frame. So what it means is this: when you talk of program, health program, we are looking at the various health, interventions that we have, like the malaria control. You have malaria control, you have HIV, you have the family planning. There are a lot of health programs out there, and the success of these health programs depends on the delivery of quality goods at an affordable cost within the required time frame. The first step of evaluation of the first step of the evaluation process is to evaluate the bids against requirements that were set out in bidding document. So before you pick a particular supplier, you need to screen them by using the process indicated in the bidding document. The criteria you set, that is how you use to screen them. This includes ensuring that the bids are in correct format, contain all the required information, samples and terms, and are otherwise complete. So you make sure that the format that you are using, okay, you use the correct format. Any bid which does not conform to whatever has been specified on the document must be thrown away. So it must contain all the required information. You are supposed to give your address, your telephone number. If we pick your telephone number, it's not there, we discard it because you haven't fulfilled the requirements. Then samples, if they need be. At times, a bid or tendering process will require that the supplier furnish, in addition to the bidding document, you add samples of the item so that we can study to see, and then terms, and then you look at the terms and conditions make sure that the person has fulfilled all before you select them. So let us look, the following are general guidelines for reviewing bids that meet the minimum requirements. One, you need to evaluate all the bids or proposals by the same criteria to ensure equity, impartiality, and transparency. All of them must be assessed, must be evaluated on the same criteria. You need to avoid impartiality. You need don't be partial. There should be don't be partial. You need to have to be transparent. Let everybody assess everybody on the same. Let them be on the same page. This must match the requirement included in the bid document at the time the bid was released. You know, before the bid will be released, you make sure that the bid, the document, what the person has brought correspond to the bidding requirement at the time it was released. So, assuming we've made changes to the document, you don't use the current one, but you use what was the document that was used during the tendering process. That is what you use. And then you must reject and do not evaluate bids and proposals that are not qualified. Any bid or proposal which does not qualify, you don't evaluate it. You don't go there. Then you need to evaluate all qualified bids and proposals based on the lowest price. See, it's not always the case that you put but then there are certain products, especially if the products are the same. You want paracetamol and you specify the companies you want, and then that one you can go for the lowest bidder. So if it is a policy to give preference to national companies, clearly state the nature and extent of the preference in the initial invitation to tender or request for proposals. Sometimes you may want to protect local firms. So in the tendering process, you need to indicate that preference shall be given to local companies or local distributors. If you do that, then everybody will understand. Or you can even do it on regional basis. But if you don't communicate this and you just apply them arbitrarily, I think it's bad. When it comes to international practices, it is not allowed. It's not allowed. So you should let them be in the same level field where you think you are going to give some professional treatment. It must be spelled out for everybody to know. And then let us look at additional commercial and technical criteria for selection. Apart from what you mentioned, which is purely procurement processes, or it's based on procurement laws. This one, we are looking at the commercial and the technical criteria. With the commercial and the technical criteria, one, the program or agency must have sufficient financial resources to meet any monetary obligations associated with the contract. So every program, every health program, they have money earmarked for the program. So when it comes to, let's say, we have malaria control program. Every year there was money. We have money that we allocate to it. You talk about HIV prevention, we have money. If you talk about family planning, there was a budget. So the procurement, all the things that they are doing, they make sure that it's being done within the budget. So before you embark on any tendering process, you need to ensure that there is sufficient funds. The next one is the bidder has a necessary organizational capacity to comply with the terms and conditions of the contract and to complete it. So the one bidding, the company bidding, the supplier must have capacity to comply with the terms and conditions of the contract. It's not that we've asked you to supply this quantity, and then maybe in the contract we indicated that you are going to store, you need to have a storage, what do you call a facility, where you will store the items until we request for them. Before you select them, make sure that they have all these things are in place before you accept their bid. The bidder must provide references or another indication that it has performed satisfactorily under similar contract terms in the past. There should be a track record, a proven track record indicating that the supplier has performed similar contracts in the past. You see, if you are giving contract to novice, people who haven't done some before, the possibility of you having challenge issues. So you always go for people with track record. Then make sure that the manufacturers meet the general manufacturing, what do you call it, practices, criteria and appropriate international standard organization as required by the government or funding agency. So you know that every product, the ISO, it should meet certain standard. Make sure that things they are going, you have all the certification, everything before you select such entity. So after selecting the what do you call it, the personnel or suppliers, the next step is awarding contracts. The contract is the outcome of the bidding process. It is the document that will legally bind the purchaser and supply to an agreed upon set of product specifications, delivery requirements, performance. So here, before you award a contract, after the person has won it, so you are now going to give a legally binding document, a contract that will bind the buyer and the seller to an agreed upon set of product specifications. So here, the contract will specify, will state the products that the person is supposed to supply, the specifications of the product, the quantity, and then delivery requirements. If on what are the requirements that one must meet before you deliver. Then we're talking about performance and payment obligation of both parties and legal recourse in the case of non-compliance. So in the case one party breaches the contract, okay, what is the remedy? What can I do if the other party is unable to fulfill his or her side of the bargain? All these things must be spelled out. Then the final step is to obtain any necessary approval by the contracting authority and funder. If required, you must ensure that all documents are properly signed and authorized by the appropriate parties. What are we saying in here? See, before there was something, that's what we talk of, we have, what do you call it? Purchase order. In such contract, purchase order is very, very important in procurement because you need authorization before you buy. And so, like most of the things, most of the challenges that a politician get is authorization. Like Atuforsin's case, they were saying that he needed approval, and that is why people were chastising the former Attorney General, because his bosses, the Ministry of Health says that they requested for it. His boss says that he gave him approval, but they said no, it wasn't approved. So you need approval before there should be documentation and everything indicating that you've been given approval before you go ahead to sign. And signing of contract is very, very important. You see, this is something that we must all take notice of. Sometimes, especially when it involves money, people are quick to pen their signature without reading. Like those of us who sign loan, who guarantee loans for our friends, sometimes we need to read the clauses there before we sign. Because at a point in time, we may all need assistance from our friends and other things, but read the conditions. You know that if somebody contracts loan, you sign and the person dies, you are not responsible. They can't hold you responsible. But then if you also do not report on time that this person is dead, and then the time for payment expires, you'll be held responsible. You know why? Because the moment you trigger, you tell them that, oh, this person is incapacitated, there was an insurance component. So the bank will trigger that insurance company. They'll go to the insurance company and take the money from the person. Because the person is incapacitated and therefore cannot pay the money. Cannot pay the money. If you don't do that,
that's why we laugh here. Listen, yeah. So now.
Abdul Rashid. Hi, Wula.
Hey, Ghana.
Ndo no Wula.
Yeah.
so what you do is that you need to, like the banking that I'm telling you, if you have, and you know that the person is sick, immediately you tell the bank. Once you tell the bank, it ends there. I remember my brother took a facility from a bank. And when he died, the bank, I think they called because he used a next of kin. He used my elder sister as a next of kin. So they called her and said that for a period, for about, I think, 2 months, yes, they've not heard from him because he was paying until that 2 months. It means that GES had blocked the salary. So my sister was like, didn't know. So I asked her to give me the phone. So I asked them, he's bereaved. And the lady said, oh, so what do we do? I said, if he's bereaved, there's an insurance company. So let the insurance company cover the money. Then she realized that I know what I'm about. So she just requested for the, what do you call it, the funeral poster or invitation card indicating that he's there. They immediately I sent it to them. They sent back, they send their condolences, and it ended there. Because at the end of the day, there was an insurance component that must cover the loan in case the person defaults. Please, just a minute. Okay, so as I was saying, we need to, whenever you are signing any contract, just take your time, don't rush, you read through it before you append your signature. And when it comes to procurement, normally it is the, what do you call it? Both of you have your own contract. Maybe the buyer, the seller may have their own, and then you two You may have your own. But what he's saying is that make sure that you all understand. Don't hide anything from anyone. Don't hide anything from anyone. Just make sure that everything is spelled out clearly for everybody to see before you sign. And make sure that the document is signed by the appropriate authority. It must be signed by the appropriate authority. You don't sign it anyhow, or you don't allow anybody who does not qualify to sign. So after the contract, after awarding the contract, you need to see to it that both parties are performing their part of the contract. And so you need to monitor the contract performance. The next step is to ensure that the established contract is adhered to and that suppliers are received as planned. This means that you must have a process to monitor supplier performance. There should be a process in place to monitor suppliers' performance. How do you measure suppliers' performance? We are measuring by, how do we measure? See that the person, by making sure that they've delivered the right product, the right quantity, they've delivered the right quantity, they've delivered on time, and then you're talking about quality and delivered to the right place. So you make sure that all these aspects of the contract are being fulfilled. Both parties have a responsibility. You have a responsibility to the supplier as well as the supplier have a responsibility to you. So there should be a process to monitor the contract. A contract monitoring system ensures that the technical specifications and contract requirements are met, enables the purchaser to identify any potential issues and evaluate the supplier in the light of consideration for future contract. So there should be a monitoring system that will ensure that the technical specifications, so assuming you what do you call it? A supplier delivers drug to you. How do you ensure that the technical specifications have been met? So that is not your responsibility. So when you go to the warehouse, when you go to the central warehouse, it is not only the procurement people who work there. You have the finance people there. You have the technical, the pharmacy council representative. You have scientists, laboratory technicians who can analyze the drugs and equipment to ascertain the 888, what do you call it, authenticity, and then the quality. Make sure that you avoid fake product. Make sure that you have the right product in place. Make sure that everything is complied with. Sarah is asking, please, with that of insurance, is it insurance association with the company with the period? For insurance companies, what happens is that if it is insurance, you have next of kin. You indicate the beneficiaries on the insurance, whatever. Okay, you indicate the beneficiaries. So based on what you have said. But most of the insurance companies will not, even when they hear that the person is dead, will not come to the family if you don't go to them and tell them that this person did something. So please, we shouldn't be too secretive. If you do some of these insurance, banking, you need not to hide them. Because a lot of people have their money stuck in the banks. The banks don't also know that the person is dead or not. But after some time, it will still be there. So they have a lot of money sitting in their account that people don't know. The same thing applies to the insurance. But the insurance, I know you have next of kin, and you indicate the beneficiaries as well.
Nafisa Adams, why? Nafisa, why is it I don't want to change?
I've removed the limit. So you need to make sure that, so there are the basic part of this type of the system. You see, we have in evaluating, we're saying the contract monitoring system ensures that the technical specifications and contract requirements are met. And then it enables the purchaser to identify any potential issues and evaluate the supply in light of consideration for future contracts. So these technical specifications, even the procurement officer might not be able to. The procurement officer will make sure that the quantities that were requested, if it is dosage, if it is forms, they conform to it. But the technical specifications as to whether the product is counterfeit or original, that one will be done by the technical people there. They must subject this or the product to technical verification to ascertain the authenticity. Then the basic part of this type of system are one, procurement documents and key performance indicators. So there should be procurement documents and key performance indicators. When you talk of the KPI, say that once you deliver the product to the supplier, so you're looking at it, products should be delivered on time, it should be the right quantity, right quality. If you don't fulfill those things, maybe next time you won't get a contract. And then there should be a procedure for addressing issues or disputes. We need to set up a procedure that we're going to use to address issues where there are problems. And the pre-shipment compliance plan. When we talk of shipment, we are not talking of only sea. Once the items are being transported from one end to the other, we can use that term. So you need to comply with all the plans and then procedures for monitoring shipment transport. You know that when it comes to distribution, these days it is so easy. Those of you who have been buying online, anytime you buy online, you are given tracking number where you are able to track the movement of the item, and so you can easily do that. There are some car vehicles that when they talk of shipment, there are some vehicles, transport systems that have tracking devices that track the items as they move along the route. From the monitoring system, we come to the delivery. The last step in the procurement process is to ensure delivery and receipt of the goods at the required destination. So for international shipments, this includes the shipment of goods from the supplier's warehouse through the port of entry, clearance through customs, receipt and inspection at the designated place of delivery, and resolution of any insurance or damage claims. Here, what we're saying that when you are delivering the item, you ensure that delivery and receipt of the goods at the required destination. That means that you must deliver the goods at the. So when it comes to delivery, you need to also make sure whose responsibility, everybody's fulfills his or her responsibility. And then we're saying that for international, this includes shipment of goods from the supplier's warehouse through port of entry, clearance from customs. See, before goods are brought, before you receive it, it has to go through custom clearance. And then it must be also inspected at the designated place of delivery and resolution of any insurance or damage claims. In case there is any problem, In case there is any insurance that must be paid as a result of damage or anything, you also work on it, and then whoever is the beneficiary will take it. So when consignment is delivered at the destination, the warehouse must officially receive the shipment by confirming receipt of the correct documentation, including the commercial invoice, packing list, and any other required documentation. So the last thing, when it comes to the delivery, the documentation that documents that must accompany the item, you need to confirm receipt, and you need to make sure that all documentations, everything is intact, and then you need to have invoice packing list. This is what a packing list. Maybe you may be having 5 boxes or 10 boxes or 100 boxes. As you indicate each box, you indicate the item in each box. If it is a container, you indicate them. Okay, maybe this container contains 1,000 boxes of drugs, but in this, you need to, there may be a categorization. Maybe you may have this box, maybe smaller, but 10 smaller boxes contain maybe insulin. These boxes contain the further thing, all the drugs, so that you indicate, you have to give them packing list. You need to indicate everything and any other required documentation. So documentation is very, very important when it comes to service delivery, goods delivery, or whatever. So let us look at the challenges faced in procurement. Key challenges faced in procurement. One is inaccurate quantification of forecast data. When we talk of inadequate quantification, what do we mean by that? It means that the quantity estimated or the quantity indicated may be inaccurate. And these are some of the challenges. And data, and then forecast data, okay? Sometimes you might think that, oh, in our area, in the northern part of Ghana, when you are distributing malaria drugs, normally the southern part, the malaria prevalence in the southern part is higher than in the north. And there may be other drugs that you send more to the north than like CS, what they call vaccines and all those things, must be taken to the north, because hardly do you experience them in the south. And that's how the distribution is done. So you need to base the quantification, the amount that the quantity that you state must be based on forecast data. And we're saying that one of the challenges that we have inaccurate quantification and then inaccurate forecasting. When the quantity you indicate is low or above, it is dangerous. The same thing applies to the forecasting. Another challenge is the lengthy procurement process. Like, look at the process that we are talking about. It's too cumbersome. So we're saying that each of the process steps described above, from quantification of requirement to delivery of goods, requires a specific amount of time to complete. You need specific amount of time to be able to complete this process, the procurement process. Delays in funding and then allocation. Now that the US has blocked a lot of the, they've blocked USAID and some of the funding to Africa and most countries, we are going to suffer because there is a gap already. They are talking about $150 million. It means that on a yearly basis, we get about $150 million from the US in the form of aid, drugs, and other things. And this time we say, no, they are not doing it again. So how are we going to fund it? So these are some of the challenges of procurement. Delay in government funding and allocation of funds is a major challenge in procurement. You are nurses and you understand this better. There are a lot of counterfeit, a lot of substandard products in the market, and they affect our health system. So how do we check? That's why we have the FDA and all those agencies designed to see to way that the right thing is done, because you, even as a nurse, you don't have the technical know-how. Can you, sometimes based on experience, you can determine counterfeit, but is it always the case that you'll be able to determine counterfeit products? Sometimes it has to go through rigorous tests to determine the authenticity of the item. So we need to have these things in place. Then transparency throughout the procurement process. Because of the large sums of money involved in healthcare commodity procurement, it is not uncommon for fraud and corruption to occur. Special interests, suppliers, procurement personnel, and others may seek to influence product selection, manipulate the order sizes, and manipulate supplier selection and contract award decision to increase sales and profit margins for their supply benefit. So you're saying that one of the challenges is transparency. And because of the huge money involved, a lot of fraudulent deals go on, a lot of activities happen, and then there are manipulations. So there are a lot of manipulations here and there. And then when it comes to supplier selection, people have their own way. And then when it comes to contracts and then profit margins for their personal benefit, people put huge margin. If the item is 10 cedis, they will inflate it to 15 cedis. Or sometimes some will do 100% and they will share. So these are the challenges that are faced by the procurement when it comes to health procurement commodity. Okay, any question with regards to what we've done? Any question or contribution?
Hello, sir.
Yeah, who is talking? Is it
Albert?
Albert, okay, because I
Yeah.
that.
I want to know, do all health product goes through procurement? Because sometimes it baffles me when against our political party. You see a politician saying, let's say they are going to buy a spare part for a machine. Of which the spare part of that machine will be even higher than purchasing a new machine. So I want to know whether all purchases that the health profession do go through procurement, or some of them they bypass it.
So that comes to that is the last what do you call it, point I raised with procurement. That is the transparency. Okay, and it is everywhere. Sometimes their hands are tied behind them because these people, these politicians or supplies, they sponsor the political parties. It is not the right thing to do, but there's nothing you can do. I get what I'm saying. There is nothing we can do. Okay, let's continue. And so these are some of the reasons why you experience that you have no say. Sometimes you go to the secondary school, they will tell you, sometimes they don't need maize, they need rice. But the supplier will bring maize. And the maize too is not that is of high quality. Sometimes some of them look like powder, maize. They are spoiled, but they will bring it. Infested with insects, they will still bring them. And then you have no say because the person is a party chairman, is a party secretary, and these things, it will be very difficult for us as a people. But fortunately, unfortunately for us, about 60 to 70% of the drugs we use in this country are from donors. And that is what has saved us a little. Yeah, George, your hand is up.
Okay, so after people submitting their bid, is there a communication feedback if their bid is not considered, or you just have to stay there until if you are not hearing anything from them, then you consider that?
Sometimes yes, sometimes they professionally it should be communicated, but it should be communicated to you that maybe sorry, your bid wasn't successful. Or they will announce the bidders. Are you getting it? Once the bidders are, once the winners are announced, you know that, for instance, you've gone to bid for road construction from Kenyasi to Airport Runabout, and then you think that there was a contractor on it. They've cut short. You should know that you are out of the equation. But under normal circumstance, professionally, it should be communicated to. You know that professionally, if you attend interview and you are not selected, you have to be, they communicate to you. Some organization will call you back and tell, oh, sorry, you were not successful. And then next time when there's opportunity, we give you. In some universities outside,
like
in some universities outside, when you apply, they will tell you, they will give you information that, oh, sorry, your application wasn't successful. And they will give you reason why you were not selected. One of the reasons why I delayed in getting PhD in supply chain was this, because most of the universities were doing marketing. The moment I apply, I also always apply with 2 masters. I'll apply with my marketing as well as the supply chain and indicate that I want supply chain, but they will give you marketing. When you insist on supply chain, then they write back to you, sorry, sometimes just a supervisor, not that they don't have, and then for them, if they don't have a supervisor, they won't give you admission. So somebody advised me I should look for a supervisor before applying. And when I got a supervisor and the person said, yes, I'm ready to supervise your work, I put it in and they gave it to me. So for them, they are consistent. They treat people. I mean, you cannot be, they will not be sitting down thinking that they've given you admission or they will not. They will just write straight to you that we're sorry, we couldn't pick you because there was no supervisor. Or if they feel that you don't qualify, they will tell you point blank. That's how it's supposed to be. David. David, your hand is up. David Preko, your hand is up.
Okay, sir. Yeah, thank you very much. Can you hear me, sir?
I can.
Yeah, I wanted to ask, after going through all the procurement process and making a payment, is there a possible way, or is there a way that the supplier will fail to supply the goods? And if the supplier fail, what are some of the ethical
Is it payment?
Yes, after
is
you
it
make
payment?
after you make the payment.
Oh, it depends. Normally, in most procurement, you supply the goods before, unless you are pre-financing. I getting it.
Okay, sir.
Sometimes, if it is a pre-finance, then there should be before the contract is awarded, there should be terms and condition, pre-contract. Before the contract is, you need to sign or go into terms and condition for everybody to know that for this item, it is cash and carry, or it's on credit, or you need to pre-finance. All these must be stated before you go ahead with the contract.
Oh, okay. Actually, I was asked because during the COVID-19 era, our minister, they said they made a payment of some of the COVID-19 vaccine and the supplier failed to supply. And moreover, later
that was a different situation. The COVID-19 issue was demand was higher than supply. Are you getting it? And you know that wherever demand is higher than supply, the supplier has an upper hand. The supplier decide, you pay before I supply. Are you getting it? And that one could be an exception because the companies needed the money. I mean, it was hot cake. People were paying. Will you give it on credit? When somebody has, now you and I, if we are selling and somebody is buying with cash and another is buying on credit, unless the one buying with credit is a close friend or you are doing it on humanitarian grounds, other than that, you go for money. So for the COVID one is a special case. Rita, and Tia, yeah, Rita.
Yeah, hello, sir. Thank you. Please, good evening. Please,
Good
I
evening,
want
Rita.
to find out, since the USA are the people that supplies us with the TB medications, HIV, and other vaccines, and now that they have stopped supplying us with these vaccines, what are the health implications, and what is the ministry also doing to curb the situation? Thank you.
Oh, I think the president has directed that the Minister of Finance should find money to do that job. And I think it's hard time. You see, we become, and the whole world, you see, US was funding it. Trump probably to come back, but Trump just want to send a signal. As I have this guy, mechanic, they call him America. His car, he sprayed it American colors, and he's written that when American sneezes, the world catches cold. Are you getting it? And this is it. He just want to send a signal to the world that, look, it's like people hate America. You see a lot of people chastising them, saying all manner of things. And most of the World Health Organization, a lot of people depend on them. So he just want to tell you that, yes, you've been insulting us, but without us, you are nothing. Just for the world he just want to feel that important. But it is up to the world. You know, China, they don't have that money. China, they claim to be rich, but most of the companies there are not for the Chinese. Most of the companies, I can say that about 60 to 70% of companies in China are not for them. They are for the Europeans, they are for the Americans, and even Japan. Japan was done after the COVID. Japan moved most of their companies to Thailand. And I think about 80 billion, Japan government gave their companies about close to $200 billion to move their companies to Thailand and other things. So it is not easy, but there's nothing we can do. Only that we also need to change our lifestyle. I've seen a statistic that indicates that almost every day, 50 people contract HIV. Why? Why should that happen? At least people should be conscious. People should be responsible. So we have to find ways and means of surviving. That is it. George Abanga, is it George? Jajabanga Nani.
Yes, sir. Yes,
Yes.
sir. I want to know, in an instance where you are in charge of making procurements for your facility, then you place in the tender, then the bidding you've received, your relative or a friend of yours has also placed a bid in the tender you sent, and through the processes, it's like your relative or your friend seems to have the qualification or has qualified for the contract. And so I want to know, in the public sector, is there an implication when you award the contract?
No. You yourself, hey, so your sister, because it's your sister, you shouldn't eat. Or it's your relative, you shouldn't do it. It could be a coincidence, but make sure you do the right thing. As you rightly said, if you go through the tendering process, he is the best, okay? He meets all the criteria and probably offering the best, the lowest. You go for it. And then, you see, the law is there. If you are taken to court, they'll look at the tendering process. They did go through the normal. The only time that people have issues with procurement is when it doesn't go through the normal. I get it. When the process doesn't go through the normal procurement process and you cut corners, that is where there was a challenge. But if you don't cut corners and you go straight to the point and the person has won the contract fairly, why not? It should be given. And that is why when you are a procurement officer, you sign a contract. What do you call it? Declare it. In most companies, you sign a contract declaring businesses. You need to declare, and probably as a result of what do you call it? Conflict of interest, you may be a item, but for your relatives, you can disclose it. Even if you don't disclose and the person has won it on the fair ground, there's nothing wrong with it. If the person won it, fine. Other than that, it will be stated. See, these rules will be stated that if you have a relative, then you would have to recluse your process. I get it. If your relative is in and you've declared it, it can't be part of the process. You have to be neutral.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Okay, Johnson.
Sir, under the award contract, you made an example that if somebody...
Johnson, raise your hand.
Yes, please. I'm the one talking.
Okay.
Hello, please. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you clearly.
Yes. Under the award contract, you made an example that if somebody apply for loan and then the person is bereaved, the insurance people will cover up. So I want you to make a clarification over that, whether the insurance people have a share.
You said, no, every loan you contract from a bank, you know that if you contract a loan, they don't give you the entire loan. Part is, they use part of it as insurance. Okay. Think about 1% or so as insurance. So in the case that even if the person is sick, is incapacitated, you see, the word is incapacitated or dead, that one will cover, the insurance will cover, but you have to report. For instance, if the person is sick, there was an incident here that a colleague of one of the administrators signed a loan for a lady who was working here. The lady left, she was sick, she left for Accra. But this guy did not report to the bank and allowed the time that the bank gave to the lady to elapse. So when the bankers came, I questioned them, and the banker said, no, the insurance is for a period of 2 years. And within the period that the lady was sick, this man did not tell them that the lady was sick until the time elapsed and they came that they wanted the money before they heard that the lady was dead. But they said that no, you should have informed that if the guy had informed them earlier, they would have activated the insurance, but this time because the insurance was 2 years, it was over. They couldn't claim that insurance, so it means that you would have to pay. So the moment that thing happened, you have to inform the bank. Okay, you need to inform the bank that this is what has happened. Then they will trigger a call for the insurance. If you don't do that, then you'll be forced to pay. Are you okay?
Yes, sir. Thank you very much.
Okay, so there was light out for almost 30 minutes. So I'm in the dark on campus, so that my life. So what you do is that I'll end the lecture because we are done with the slides. I won't start another lecture. I get what I'm saying.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Because there's no light and I'm using my phone as a
Wow.
You've been very
hotspot.
helpful. God bless you.
Sorry, sir.
Okay, so I wish you all the best.
We'll try and solve the doom.
More than a lecture.
Thank you.
Happy Valentine's, sir.
Same to you.
Greetings, Valentine's.
So we are bringing you some chocolates.
Okay, thank you.
Stop promising.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye. Bye. Bye-bye. Bye.